We begin where you live, where the first of the month has a sound to it, where the mailbox can make the heart move a little faster, where the shelf in the kitchen is counted before the prayer is finished. Bills, food, children's shoes. The body wants assurance, and the mind says, if only there were a little more. Do not be ashamed of that whisper. Everyone who has ever looked at a calendar knows the sensation behind the word, supply. The fear is quiet. It does not shout. It sits in the corner of the room like a shadow that has learned your name. Now hear me gently. What we call a money problem is more often than not a communion problem. We imagine we are asking for money or a job or favor in a market, when in fact the soul is asking to remember its source. The secret of supply is not in the figures of income or the cleverness of schemes. It is in recognition. God is. God is life. God is the substance of all form, the law unto all being, the rhythm of giving and receiving. Not I am supplied, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Not I am prosperous, but God is infinite, omnipresence, the very presence filling all space, and therefore this space, this room, this need. Our work is to awaken to what already is. Give us this day our daily bread is not a religious line to be framed. It is a living invitation. Daily means now, present, immediate. It is not an appeal to a distant deity to send a package through the post. It is the opening of the heart to the one who says, Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. The daily bread is not the loaf you store in the pantry. It is the recognition that there is a presence within you that is bread in every form it must take. Ideas, opportunities, right action. And yes, the money that appears as one of many channels, but never the source. We have tried to calm fear by telling it, I am abundant, I am prosperous. And while the lips move, the calendar stares back. That is an attempt to convince a frightened mind to become spiritual by proclamation. Let us change the treatment. God is. Not, I can make supply appear, but I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. This is not another technique to manage anxiety. It is the practice of contact. Make your daily contact with me. Close your eyes, even now, and realize there is an I at the center of your being. Not your thinking, not your striving. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Rest there. From this hour forward, we are not going to chase a better fear management system. We are going to consent to communion. Then bills become what they should be. Occasions for channels to open, not masters issuing threats. Money remains a tool, not a god. Our reliance is in the infinite invisible. The visible will take its proper place. Begin by acknowledging, here and now, God is the bread. God is the life. God is the law of fulfillment where I am. Look to me. Look within. Fear not. Daily bread is a fact in the presence, and as you recognize it, it will appear as what is needed, when and where it is needed, without strain. You are cared for. Now let us correct, gently but firmly, the most common misstep we have taken in good faith. We have told ourselves, I am prosperous, I am harmonious, I am supplied. And we have said it quickly, repeatedly, as if volume and frequency could silence the tremor in the stomach. But listen, if you were prosperous, if you were harmonious, if you were supplied, why the panic? Why the sleeplessness? Why the bargaining with life at 2 in the morning? Human beings, dear ones, walking about with eyeglasses on their noses and calendars on their walls, declaring, "I am perfect," while they search the couch cushions for bus fare. Do you see the humor of it? It is not sin. It is simply the mind trying to hypnotize itself into security with statements it does not feel, does not know, and therefore cannot embody. You do not make the sun appear by telling the window, "I am bright." You do not fill a cup by saying to the vessel, "I am full." This "I am" business is the frightened ego asserting divinity without contact. If you could talk yourself into supply, the world would have been saved by slogans. But the Father has not ordained salvation by slogans. The Master did not say, "I myself am a wonder worker." He said, "I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works." That is the pivot. Instead of "I am," God is. God is life. God is law. God is substance. God is the activity of fulfillment at the point of your need. And because God is omnipresence, the point of your need is never outside of God. This is not moralizing, and it is not a condemnation of your efforts. It is a method. Stop feeding the false center that cannot hold supply. What is that false center? It is the personality self that believes it must gather, manipulate, affirm, and secure its own tomorrow. You may pour 1,000 affirmations into that little bag, and by nightfall, there is a hole in the bottom. Let it be. Let it die daily. Turn instead to the I that is not the personal I, but the presence in the midst of you that says, "Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I in the midst of you am mighty." Change the treatment. Not "I will get," but "I will behold." Not "I can make it happen," but "I can consent to what is." Not "I will demonstrate supply," but "the Word becomes flesh as I rest in God is." Now close your eyes for a moment and realize God is. God is the bread, the law of bread, the appearing of bread as idea, opportunity, right action, envelope, or introduction. God is the rhythm of giving and receiving. God is the peace that dissolves the tremor so that you can hear the still, small instruction. When you yield, when you stop addressing a frightened mind and begin communing with the living presence, supply is not produced, it is revealed. Recognition, not repetition, feeds you. Consent, not compulsion, opens the channel. Relax. Rest. Make your daily contact with me. Look to me. Look within. Fear not. As you abide in God is, the hunger under the words ends, and the words themselves fall away, because the thing itself is there, and you are cared for. Now let us take up the cleverness of fear. How it puts on a little show, and you and I, like sincere, honest people, buy a ticket and sit down to watch. In the old illustration, a hypnotist tells a man, "There is a white poodle in the room." And in that moment, the man begins to shift his chair, to hold his coat up, to speak softly so as not to frighten the animal. He will swear there is a poodle, and he will react to it as if it were a fact. That is the principle. Suggestion makes the unreal seem urgent, and then we behave as though it had authority. We are not sinners for it. We are simply hypnotized. What are the white poodles of our day? A bank balance masquerading as your identity. Headlines pretending to be prophecy. An employer enthroned as source. Price tags promoted to the dignity of law. A clock on the wall acting as tyrant, saying, "Too late. Not enough time. The end of the month is coming." And oh, how reverently we bow to them. We look at a number and then say, "I am that number." We hear a broadcast and then say, "My tomorrow will be that storm." We look to a human channel and then say, "That is my life." This is hypnotism. It is not life. Here is the trap. The more we stare at the appearance of lack, the more we confer reality upon it. The more we argue with it, measure it, and treat it, the more convinced we become that it is a power. Then we begin to do metaphysics to the poodle. I am prosperous. I am fearless. And while we speak, the little fellow sits in the corner of the room wagging a tail that does not exist. Our work is not to pet it, not to scold it, not even to chase it out. Our work is to wake up and see there is no poodle there. Another picture will help you. At dusk, a coil of rope lies in the path and, by suggestion, appears as a snake. You may beat the snake. You may cry out for help. You may promise God you will be good if only this serpent will depart. But when the lamp is brought, there is nothing to fight, only a rope to be seen for what it is. The remedy was not force. The remedy was light. So too with those railroad tracks that come together out there on the horizon. Go to them, and you will find they were never joined. Appearances are not laws. They are shadows awaiting light. Now, I am not asking you to deny the mail, the rent, the groceries. I am asking you to withdraw faith from the hypnotism that whispers, "There is no bread unless you secure it personally." Stand still. Turn on the light. Close your eyes a moment and realize God is. God is substance. God is law. God is the rhythm of supply revealing itself where you are. I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Look to me. Look within. As you awaken, the problem loses its borrowed authority. The news becomes weather, not destiny. The employer becomes a channel, not a god. Prices become figures, not fate. Time becomes a servant, not a jailer. You will still act. You will still sign checks and answer calls, but you will do so as one who has seen the rope, not as one fighting snakes. And when the white poodle trots out again, and it will, smile, and let the light do its work. Having seen that the poodle was suggestion, and the snake was only a rope, we come now to the question that really steadies the heart. If the appearance is not authority, who then supplies? Where is the fountain? And here we make the great transfer of reliance that ends the trembling. Not the pocketbook, not the paycheck, not the calendar, not the kindly relative. God. Our dependence is not upon what is counted, measured, insured, and taxed. Our dependence is upon the infinite invisible, the presence that was before money had a name and will be when the last coin is melted down into memory. Let us build the inner logic, line upon line, until the thought holds. Not my employer, but God. The employer is a channel, a changing face at the window. God is source. Not my savings, but God. Savings appear, they disappear, they rise and fall like tides. God is the ocean. Not my spouse, but God. Love blesses us through those near us, but the nearness of God is the marrow of the blessing. Not my cleverness, but God. Skill is a tool. The wisdom that moves it is the life that says, I in the midst of you am mighty. Not my clients, not my market, not my timing. God. And when you say God, do not think of a distant overseer. Think, feel, realize, presence, here, now, nearer than breath, the very substance of being responding as bread in the form required. Do not mistake this for pleasant optimism. It is not sentiment. The invisible is not vague. It is the most concrete fact you will ever know, because it is being itself. Listen within, and you will hear the old promise become a living voice. I will never leave you, nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Look to me. Look within. Make your daily contact with me and rest, for I am the law of fulfillment at the point of your need. When this is felt even a little, the shoulders drop, the breath lengthens, and the mind ceases its hurrying from cupboard to cupboard. For the bread is recognized before the loaf is seen. Now, does this mean you throw away the pencil and the ledger? Of course not. Planning may occur, but it ceases to carry the burden of being source. You will plan, but you will not pray to the plan. You will make a budget, but you will not bow to the numbers as a deity. You will answer the telephone, meet the appointment, prepare the bid, yet under it all you hold to the word. Not this activity, but the life that animates it is my supply. In this poise, the strain runs out of effort, and efficiency becomes natural, because fear is not squandering your attention. We fence our houses and buy locks. Is the steel the protection? Or is the word of God the protection? We deposit our earnings in a vault. Is the vault our safety? Or is the presence the safety that uses the vault as a convenience? See how the sap, unseen, sustains the tree, and the fruit appears without anxiety. So the infinite invisible is the sap of your being, and forms ripen on the branch of your day by a law deeper than your watching. When the invisible is accepted as source, the visible takes its rightful place as channel and servant, never again a master issuing threats. Employers, markets, accounts, all are instruments that come and go in obedience to the one that does not come and does not go. Rest in that one. Close your eyes a moment and let it speak. Fear not, I am here. I am the bread and the law of bread. I am the rhythm of giving and receiving that cannot be broken. Look to me. Look within. As you abide there, the world becomes a set of windows for light to pour through. And you, even you with the mail on the table, will find that you are cared for. Give us this day our daily bread is not a telegram to a far-off heaven, not a request posted to a divine office with business hours and delays. It is the awakening word that turns us from the window to the hearth, from hoping for supply to recognizing the presence that is bread before bread is seen. Daily is now. Bread is not merely the crust in the hand. Bread is the substance of spirit, the living law of fulfillment that, when recognized, appears as whatever shape provision must take in this hour. An idea, a call, a skill remembered, a task completed with ease, an envelope, a quiet courage that moves the feet at the right moment. God is. God is life. God is substance. God is the law that turns invisible sufficiency into visible experience without strain. So the prayer must change. Not I need, but God is. Not pleading, but beholding. Not outlining, but listening. Not asking for things, but consenting to the presence that forever says, Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. The Master set the tone. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. Do you see? The personal sense is not origin, it is transparency. The more thin, the more clear that me becomes, the more easily the light shines through as activity, as order, as perfect timing. My doctrine is not mine. My success is not mine. My supply is not mine. The Father is the bread and the law of bread. I am the window through which it gleams. This is practical, not poetic. Recognition quiets fear. Fear quieted becomes receptivity. Receptivity allows the still, small instruction to be heard. Then what happens? You find yourself dialing the number you had forgotten. You open the drawer, and there is the document you thought was lost. You speak simply where you would have argued, and the resistance melts. You wait the extra hour, and in that hour, the right message arrives. You move a day sooner or a day later, and doors that were shut swing easily. This is not magic. It is order. The infinite invisible arranging the visible by a law that functions perfectly when you have ceased to be your own manager. Let us practice it here. Close your eyes for a moment and let the old cry, I need, collapse like a tent with its poles removed. Be still and feel for the I in the midst of you that is mighty. Hear it, if you will, as a gentle certainty. Fear not, I am thy bread. I am the law of circulation. I am the appearing of supply as idea, as opportunity, as money if money is needed, as strength if strength is needed. Look to me, look within. Rest now. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Then open your eyes and look upon your day differently. Not, how shall I get, but how shall I behold? Not, what shall I make happen, but what is already established in God that I may recognize. Bring the mind back again and again to the simple truth, God is. God is the source. God is the activity of fulfillment here. And as you abide in that recognition, quiet, unhurried, attentive, the daily bread, which was never absent, shows itself in form, and you will find that you have been cared for all along. Now we must taste, not just talk. Principle is not a debate to win, but a presence to feel. The mind may nod at God is, but unless the heart hears and the body rests in the certainty of that I at the center, we are still living from a frightened corner. So let us enter the room where fear cannot enter, not by force, but by recognition. Close your eyes. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath find its own rhythm. Before any name arises, before any age, profession, balance sheet, or plan, notice that there is an aliveness here, not a thought, an awareness. Say nothing for a moment, and sense simply, I. Not I the parent, not I the worker, not I the one with bills. Simply, I. Rest there. Notice that this I is here whether the mind is busy or still, whether the calendar turns or stops. It does not hurry. It does not bargain. It is. Now you will also notice the little I trying to tap you on the shoulder. It whispers, time is running, the rent, the call to make, the what if. Let it whisper, but do not get up to answer the door. The small I is the personality made of stories, memories, and calculations. It is the child playing banker with buttons and strings, very serious, very tired. Smile at it. Do not hate it. Do not feed it. Return to the simple I that witnesses even the whispering. This I does not starve because it is not a separate creature seeking supply. It is the very life by which supply appears. Now be still and hear, not from outside, but as a soft rising within. Fear not, I am here. I in the midst of you am mighty. I am your bread and the law of bread. I am the rhythm of your day, the order of your steps. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Look to me. Look within. Rest. Stay long enough for the words to become a felt fact. God is. God is life. God is substance. God is the activity of fulfillment where you are. This communion is not a lever to pull so that coins roll out of a machine. It is union, and union naturally reveals form as fruit on a living branch. Do not sit here timing results. Trees do not watch their own ripening. Consent to be the transparency through which the infinite invisible shows itself as ideas, as right impulse, as provision in the very shape the hour calls for. Now, if thought wanders, bring it back gently. Not I manage, but God is the law governing me. Not I achieve, but the Father within me doeth the works. Not I get, but I behold. In that beholding, the race ends, the chase ends, and life begins to demonstrate itself as care meeting you where you stand. Open your eyes, but do not leave the eye. Carry it like quiet flame. Walk to the phone, to the desk, to the kitchen, as one who is already sustained. Speak, write, act, but let action be the overflow of communion, not the substitute for it. Then you will see that supply was never absent. Communion restored you to the I that already includes it. Now we take this communion out onto the sand, where the wind is sharp and the water is in front, and the army presses from behind. There was no human way. There were no boats, no bridges, no bargains to make with Pharaoh. The instruction was not run faster or argue louder. It was stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Do you hear the order? Stand still first, be still, and know that I am God. And then the rod is lifted, the sea divides, and the path appears where no path was. Realization precedes demonstration. We do not use God to part seas. We yield to God, and the sea, which never had authority, yields to the presence recognized. Then came the desert, where hunger spoke in the body. And again the lesson was not hoarding, but daily reliance. Manna fell according to the rhythm of grace, enough for the day, not for the fear that would hedge tomorrow with distrust. When they tried to store it against providence, it spoiled, because the law was not secure yourself by anxiety. The law was live on the word that proceeds out of the mouth of God now. Do you see daily bread taking shape? Not my cleverness, but God is. Not my savings as God, but God is, the source that appears as bread for the hour and teaches the heart to rest. And there was the rock, hard, barren to the senses, yet within it the symbol of hidden supply. Strike it at the word, and water flows. Supply from where the mind swore there was none. The infinite invisible does not consult appearances. It is the substance out of which appearances must conform. God is life. God is substance. God is law. God is the well within the rock, the way within the sea, the bread within the wilderness of your calendar. Now translate it to this morning's envelope, to the vanished client, to the invoice that makes the chest tighten, to the rising medical bill. The instruction has not changed. Stand still inwardly. Before you call, before you calculate, close your eyes and realize, God is. I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Look to me. Look within. Rest until the tremor in the stomach releases and the word within has the floor. Then, and not before, let action proceed from guidance. Lift the rod that is given you. Make the call you are shown to make. Wait the hour you are told to wait. Move when the peace moves you. The sea opens after the stillness, not before it. Understand this well. We are not trying to bend God to our need. We are letting God reveal that need already met in principle. My doctrine is not mine. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. Not I will demonstrate, but the Word becomes flesh as I yield. Not I will hoard manna, but I will trust the rhythm of grace. Not I will force the rock, but I will touch it with obedience to the inner word. Stand still. Let the invisible disclose the way. Then go forward, for the command will come. And as you go, carry this assurance. Fear not. I am thy bread in the wilderness. I am the way through the sea. I am the water in the rock, and the rock beneath thy feet. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Live in that, and supply is not a chase. It is the fruit of recognition, appearing in form as naturally as dawn follows night. We have stood still and seen the sea open. Now beware the next temptation that comes, quiet, respectable, very practical. It whispers, yes, yes, God parted the sea, but be sensible. Keep your eye on the bank. Protect your position. Worship the method that worked last time. Do you see the little altar we build without knowing it? We take a person, an institution, a balance, a technique, and enthrone it as my supply. And the moment it is enthroned, we begin to fear its loss, as if God could be taken away. That is idolatry in its Sunday clothes. Let us correct it with the old cadence that saves us from ourselves. Not the bank, but God. Not the economy, but God. Not the client, but God. Not the contract, but God. Not even my past success, but God. God is the source. God is the substance. God is the law of appearing. God is the rhythm of circulation. When we say God, we mean the living presence at the center of you that says, I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Money then becomes what it always was intended to be, a token, a symbol, a receipt that says an exchange of usefulness has taken place. Useful? Of course. Source? Never. Now hear this without scolding yourself, because we have all fallen into the same trap. Prosperity is not a badge of spirituality, and shortage is not a mark of divine displeasure. Supply, rightly understood, is the natural harmony of alignment with principle. The fruit does not boast of the tree, it simply reveals that sap is flowing. So if a season brings much fruit, give thanks and keep your worship clean. If a season brings little fruit, stand still in the same worship and let the rhythm of grace restore itself. Do not make a golden calf of yesterday's harvest, and do not make a devil of today's drought. Right relationship to money is simple. Use it, do not serve it. Spend it as guided, do not hoard it as savior. Receive it freely, Do not cling to it as life. Let it pass through your hands as water through a clear channel, and notice that the stream remains because the spring is not in the bucket. Money can buy a door, but it cannot be shelter. It can rent a bed, but it cannot be rest. It can stock a pantry, but it cannot be bread. Safety is not conferred by figures. Safety is the presence that says, "Fear not, I am thy fortress. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." Now, practically, when you feel that clutch of grasping, if I lose this client, if this market turns, if this account declines, stop. Close your eyes for a moment and return to first love. God is. God is my source. God is the law of fulfillment here. Look to me. Look within. Rest until the panic releases its grip, and then act as you are shown. You may renegotiate. You may let go. You may take an entirely different path. Guidance replaces grasping when the idol is removed. And here is the freedom. When money is dethroned, it can come and go without terror. Channels open and close, but you remain in communion with the fountain. Forms change, but the life revealing itself as form does not change. Then you will find you can give without fear and receive without pride. You can plan without worship and adjust without loss of poise, because you are held, not by paper and promise, but by the infinite invisible that forever is your supply. Look to me. Look within. Keep the altar clean, and the channels will keep themselves. Now let us bring this down to the street where you live, where envelopes arrive and phones ring and decisions must be made. How does the invisible assurance become visible usefulness? How does the word become flesh? Not by forcing outcomes, not by running the mind like a machine, but by recognition. By God is realized within until it shines out as the shape the hour requires. God is life. God is law. God is substance. God is the activity of fulfillment right here. When that is felt, even faintly, the inner climate changes. Fear loosens, and in the still air of communion, the next right thing shows its face. The word becomes flesh when the heart consents to the word. And then ideas step forward, doors open, and what needed to be done becomes both plain and possible. Fear, on the other hand, is a narrow hall with no windows. Panic says, only one way, and because it shouts, you do not notice the side door standing ajar. Communion is a wide room. Options appear. You quiet yourself. Look to me. Look within. And in that quiet, the thought arises to check a drawer you had dismissed, to place a call you had postponed, to wait an extra day, to speak one honest sentence you had rehearsed into complexity. This is not lethargy. It is guidance. Recognition is not passive. It is the inner cause that shapes outer provision, and it carries its own timing. And so you will find very ordinary forms made luminous. An email arrives from the service company, admitting an overcharge. The bill is reduced without your argument. A former colleague writes, "We've had a change. Are you available?" And a position appears where there was none yesterday. A client who had drifted away sends a referral, and a new account is born. A neighbor knocks with surplus from their pantry, and dinner is solved without a speech to heaven. A tax refund, thought to be weeks away, clears today. None of this is spectacle. It is the infinite invisible, taking shape through the path of least resistance once you have ceased to be your own resistance. Often, the good arrives in a form you would not have thought to outline, and that is its seal of authenticity. We did not bargain it into being. We did not manipulate personalities to stage it. We stood still until the sea knew it must part. We listened until the rock knew it must pour. Not my plan triumphed, but the presence revealed its way. Then you are protected from pride on a good day and protected from despair on a lean one. For the source was never your blueprint. Keep the ethics of spirit clean. We do not demonstrate to dazzle a neighbor or to prove a point to ourselves. We demonstrate because life is living as us, because love must circulate, because the sap must move through the branch. And notice, as supply appears for you, generosity appears from you. You feel the quiet impulse to forgive a debt, to tip beyond custom, to send an anonymous gift, to volunteer a skill. This is not a trick to get more. It is the rhythm of the law itself, giving and receiving as one motion, the word taking flesh through both hands. Now take your present need, the invoice, the uncertainty, the blank in the calendar, and refrain from drafting a list for God. Be still. God is. God is the bread and the law of bread. I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Rest until the fear's voice breaks into silence. And out of that silence, let the simple instruction surface. Follow that. One step, one call, 1 hour of waiting, 1 page written. And watch how the outer aligns without strain, not because you pressed, but because you recognized. This is how the word becomes flesh in your affairs. Quietly, appropriately, in season. And you live, not chasing supply, but witnessing the care that has always held you. Fear not. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Make this a rule as sacred as breath. Never let a day pass without contact. Not a crisis prayer when the envelope is heavy and the heart is lightless, but a quiet, faithful period when there is no bargaining, no outlining, simply being with the presence that is your life. Morning is best because it sets the tone for the hours that follow. But if morning slips, take it at noon. If noon slips, take it before sleep. Only do not let the sun or the moon cross your sky without this. Make your daily contact with me. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee, but you must open the door of awareness so that the invisible may be recognized as the source of the visible. Here is the simple structure. First, be still. Sit, breathe, and let the machinery of the mind idle down. Second, release the outline. Lay aside the list of how you think the day must go, who must call, what figure must appear. Let it go as you would set a heavy package down. Third, contemplate God is. God is life. God is law. God is substance. God is the activity of fulfillment here. Let the words roll until they are more than words. Fourth, listen. Not for a plan you dictate, but for the inner assurance that rises like warmth. Fear not. I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. Fifth, carry it into the day. Do not leave your I on the chair. Walk with it to the desk, to the market, to the meeting. There are helps and there are hindrances. Help yourself with these prohibitions that free you. Do not rehearse lack as if it were a drama you must perfect. Do not consult 10 opinions until you drown the still small voice in a sea of noise. Do not treat persons as saviors or threats. Not this man, not this woman, but God is the source. Not, I must secure myself, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Not fear's forecast, but the Father within me doeth the works. Practice mini communions all day. Before you dial, pause. God is. Before you buy, pause. God is. When fear rises like a wave, stop where you are and inwardly know, I in the midst of you am mighty. 3 breaths, 10 seconds. Look to me. Look within. If you sit in traffic or stand in a line, turn it into sanctuary. Whisper, if you like, without lips, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Let the atmosphere change before the action proceeds. Understand the expectancy. Supply is not earned by hours of prayer. It is recognized in communion, and then activity flows in right sequence. Peace first, then the appropriate step. Recognition restores normalcy, the sap moving in the branch without strain. Do not time results. Do not pick at the seed. Rest in God is until the next right thing becomes plain. So let this be your daily rule. At least once, and often in little moments, touch the presence. Never let your head touch the pillow before you have touched the eye that is your life. Keep the altar lit, and your day becomes a series of unveilings, quiet, apt, sufficient, because you have not waited for trouble to remember your source. Fear not, I am here. Look to me, look within, and walk on. We began with the rent on the table, and the old dread that arrives with it, the small self whispering, what if there isn't enough? And now, after standing still at the sea, after tasting daily bread as recognition, after refusing to make a golden calf of money, we come to the gentle ending of fear. It does not end by wrestling with it. Fear ends because the one who fears fades from the center, replaced by the realized presence. In communion, you stop living as the beggar at the window and take your rightful place as the son in the house, the branch joined to the vine. And the question, will I be cared for, becomes, how could I not be? I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. That is not a philosophy. It is safety. I in the midst of you am mighty must cease to be a slogan and become the atmosphere you breathe, not only in the chair, but at the sink, on the road, in the market, as the mail is opened. There, without strain, you notice that the same presence which silenced panic in the quiet room now moves your feet, orders your speech, checks your impulse to grasp, and opens what needs to open. Not, I am wealthy, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Not, I will get supply, but I will recognize supply as the inevitable form of God's being where I stand. Not fear, but presence. Not the visible as master, but the invisible as source. The visible as servant. So the language of your heart changes. God is. God is life. God is substance. God is law. God is the activity of fulfillment in this moment. You do not ask the future to promise you anything. You rest in the one that does not come and does not go. Channels appear and disappear. The fountain is steady. Plans are drafted and redrafted. The word remains. What used to be a chase becomes a walk, unhurried, guided, sufficient. Let us end as we intend to live. Be still for a moment and consent. Thy grace is sufficient. I rest in thee. Hear the inner voice that has followed you through every paragraph and every hour. Fear not. I in the midst of you am mighty. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Look to me. Look within. Rest. As this becomes your habit, the quiet turning, the daily contact, the refusal to make an idol of any channel, you will find it natural to live as one already cared for. Decisions simplify. Timing grows kind. Generosity becomes easy, and provision takes its rightful shape without spectacle. Demonstrations come as needed, when needed, how needed, not coerced, not timed by fear, because the Word has become flesh where you are. Walk on then, not in haste, but in assurance. You are cared for. You are not alone. God is, and because God is, supply is a fact and not a chase.